All right, let's get into Friday feedback for the week. Holiday Friday feedback. You can always email info@davidpakman.com, but we will sometimes feature comments or replies on any of the platforms where we publish our content, including Spotify, Facebook, TikTok, the whole thing, okay? Let's start with JMFL Coctelera, who says it's not Trump posting on X at midnight. He writes his messages in advance and then hands them out to someone to post them at a predefined hour of the night. Is that surprising in any way, shape, or form? Step it up, David. So a few different things. First of all, Trump doesn't do that. Okay. There are documentaries showing when Trump is posting these things. And he's especially over the last 10 days, Trump has been posting minutes after things happen at midnight, with the big, beautiful bill on the Senate floor. Stuff's been happening all night and Trump's immediately posting. So the idea that he's pre-writing these things and saying, post this at 2 a.m. when it's about something that happened at 1:50 a.m., it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But also, this is just like not really the way that it's done. The idea that Trump would sit there on Friday morning and go, all right, here's what I'm thinking about for Saturday at 3 a.m. to post. None of it makes any sense at all. Now, by the way, even if it were true that Trump's unhinged Truth Social posts were not really Trump pushing the button because Trump was sound asleep or whatever, it kind of doesn't matter whether it's Trump pounding them out while pacing around in his bathrobe or whatever. The entire nature of it is this chaotic, unhinged reflection of Trump's brain. And so whether it was typed at 3 a.m. or typed at 3 p.m. and launched at 3 a.m. via some staffer, the substance of it, not the mechanics, are probably the most important thing. And if we're analyzing the political impact, it doesn't really matter. Now, as I've said before, I prefer pilots who are well rested. I prefer doctors who are well rested, and I prefer presidents who are well rested too. So I think even on just the mechanics of it, the Trump overnight posting is wacky, but everything this person is saying is not true. All right, Secret Claps says, I voted for Trump, and what's heartbreaking for me is the wars he's getting us into, considering he said we would not join any new wars. This is the type of comment that actually means something. I voted for Trump because he promised A, and now he's doing the opposite of A. A lot of Trump voters would never even allow this sort of self-reflection. But it does point to something that we've been talking about. There are some Trump voters who I accept voted for Trump because they believed he's going to be the peace president, not the war president. He's going to really do America first and whatever. I think that it made no sense to believe that Trump was going to offer those things. I think that they deluded themselves but there are some people who voted because they thought that they were getting what Trump was saying. And instead, they're watching the cycle of escalation and intervention and saber rattling and doing the opposite of what's good for the average American. And they're acknowledging, I am duped. So in a sense, I know that we're digging pretty deep here in a situation that's a disaster to find something good. The silver lining is that there are any people who are willing to self-reflect and say, these are broken promises. Trust has been broken. Trump ran on this stuff and he didn't do it. He's doing the opposite. And nobody should be ashamed. Nobody should be shamed for acknowledging that. We should encourage it. And you know what, Secret Claps? I don't know how you ever fell for it, but I'm glad that you're reflecting and saying, I did fall for it, and I'm now changing my mind. That's a very good thing. King Turd Ensemble wrote in and said on YouTube, you're pathetic, Pakman. I used to like you, but you've become hysterical. You have clickbait titles. The world is always on fire with you. Listen to Kyle Kalinske or the New Turks. I haven't heard of the New Turks. Don't listen to Pakman Fudge. Okay. This is the classic. I used to like you, but now that you're doing X, no more. No more. Here's the reality. When democracy is being eroded and the press is being attacked and people are being rounded up and a tax bill is floating around that would just damage so many average Americans, should I say I'm mildly concerned by this? Should I do the Susan Collins thing? Well, I'm definitely worried about if the house is burning down. Am I going to sit here sipping, whatever, and going, I like the flavor of my tea? No. And what I always try to do is not be overly hyperbolic or not urgent enough, and to tell my audience honestly where I think things are. Now, as far as, YouTube titles, as I've said before, if every title was President outlines economic policy, we would get no views. No one would learn about what's going on. Okay. So you do have to a degree, play the game. And if you look at the titles of our podcast episodes, which is a non-algorithmically based thing, the titles are completely different. They're much lower temperature. And okay, to a degree, if you want to have your content seen, you've got to play the game. I know a lot of people don't like that. Now, by the way, if you like Kyle Kalinske better, or you like the Young Turks better, or the New Turks better, watch them, right? I mean, I'm not here saying this is the show for everyone. Don't watch anything else. Just watch this. The whole point here is watch whoever you like. That's fine. But don't confuse urgency with hysteria, okay? There are serious things going on, and I'm trying to get people's attention. Stray Dog wrote, you libtard are not welcome here. MAGA has spoken. Your hair looks so stupid. Every once in a while, a comment shows up that is so unintentionally funny that when you read it out loud, you really learn, like, this is what we're dealing with, okay? There's no policy critique. There's no argument. This is drive-by playground bullying from someone who never evolved beyond AOL chat rooms in 2003. If my hair is your biggest problem with what I'm saying, that is a win for me. And if we're real, these comments are not made to persuade anybody. These are meant to just insult. But they say so much more about the person writing them than they do about me. As I've said before, when you think for a moment and you go, what must be going on in someone's life that they see a video on YouTube and something happens in their brain where they go, I'm going to write a comment. You libtard are not welcome here. MAGA has spoken. Your hair looks stupid. We should be sad because these people's lives are terrible. And that's why they're subjected to doing this stuff. All right. James Larson 394 wrote, David Pakman, seriously, you've become a drama queen with your daily personal attacks on Trump and company. You want a bit more decorum, but Trump is the only leader who aggressively tells the truth and is making you safer from people like yourself. This one's interesting because it's revealing. I'm the drama queen for criticizing Trump, but then James insists Trump's the only one telling the truth and protecting people like me from people like me. The sentence crumbles under its own grammatical weight, but it's a perfect example of how Trump cult logic spirals inward. It spirals in on you. And you end up thinking that the real threat isn't corruption, it's not authoritarianism, it's the people pointing it out that are the problem. Now, the reality is we don't attack Trump daily because it's fun. We attack Trump daily because he's at the top of a movement that's actively undermining institutions, targeting protesters, threatening journalists, and staging this slow motion authoritarian disaster under the guise of imposing law and order. That's not the side note. That's the story. And so if when I tell the truth, it makes me a drama queen, pass the crown, James, pass the crown. Okay. Elir wrote on Spotify, Now, I love this because it's a completely different critique that conflicts with the earlier ones. Alir says this show has lost all its credibility. Pandering to the far left for money. The current left is the actual problem, sabotaging elections for self-righteous reasons. The left calls Booker, AOC, and Sanders sellouts, and you keep pandering to them. I am glad I canceled my ABO. I don't know what ABO is. Maybe it's a membership, or maybe they meant to put sub. Fuck America and your toxic culture war. Toxic. So here's the thing with this stuff, all right? I believe that 98% of my audience, 94% of my audience is not in this tiny sliver of the left that goes, nope, AOC sold out. She's not left enough anymore. Nope, Bernie sold out. He's not left enough yet anymore. I think that represents a tiny sliver of my audience. What I love about this post is that on the one hand, I'm criticized by the so-called far left because I don't pander to the far left, right? There's a huge slice of the people I hear from that's angry with me that I'm not pandering to the far left. Why am I not a socialist? How dare I? This guy is upset. Don't know if it's a guy. I'm going to assume it's a guy because most of the people who write this crap are, and the audience skews slightly male. This guy says, I am pandering to the far left for money, as if there were even money to be made pandering to the far left, which hates me because I don't pander to them. As I've always said, I'm progressive, but I'm not delusional. I want outcomes. I don't care so much about slogans. If you're voting the wrong way, or you're sabotaging the goal of maintaining democracy and beating back authoritarianism, we're just not on the same page. And the people that are now saying AOC sold out, Sanders sold out, I don't think that that's going to get the movement where I would like to see it go. JC wrote, when the political pendulum swings hard in one direction, it typically swings just as hard back in the other. This is what I've warned family that are Trumpers about for years. The precedents that Trump has been obliterating will be disastrous in their worldview when the left regains power. This is an interesting idea, that what Trump is doing will actually be disastrous for his political movement later. You know, the people that are cheering on the authoritarianism because it's their guy doing it are forgetting a basic rule of history. Tools built for your enemy eventually get turned against you. And if Trump ignores habeas corpus and deploys troops against civilians and rewrites norms and all of that, at least theoretically, those powers will exist when Democrats take office. Now, I think what insulates them to some degree is that I don't really know of too many Democrats that are interested in subjecting democracy to its dethroning in the way that Trump and the people around him are. So the one thing that might prevent their own tactics to be turned against them is that when Democrats get elected, they don't seem to have an interest in doing that stuff. Biden won, and he didn't do any of the authoritarian stuff that Donald Trump did. So that may be their saving grace. Glugonomics, with finally a positive comment on TikTok. You were one of the few people who were giving a realistic outlook on the presidential election, and I was mad at you for it. You know, a lot of people were. If you go back to 2020, as a Bernie supporter, at a certain point, I said, Biden's going to be the nominee. And some people appreciated it, and others said, David, no, you're bad because you're telling us what you actually believe. You need to keep irrationally saying Bernie's got it. And similarly, in 2024, there were people in my audience who were furious when I said, listen, all along, I said, I don't think Biden should have even run for re-election, but up to a certain point, I believe Biden had the best chance to win. After the June 27th debate, that changed. And I said, guys, I don't think Biden's going to be able to stay in. And I had people saying, no, you need to support and say he's got to stay. And of course, in retrospect, I think 99% of my audience has come around to that. The fact that Glugonomics is willing to admit they were mad at me, but I said the truth. It's a reminder It's not a I told you so, okay? It's a reminder of how emotionally charged these things can get. I would rather be here saying, this is reality and what we're up against. It might cost me some viewers short term, but over the long term, I will do best and we will do best if I just always tell you what I believe and never concoct or contrive positions based on how I think the audience will respond. I hope you have a phenomenal 4th of July weekend. Make sure you're on my Substack. Get a membership at joinpakman.com. Let's do it all. And I will see you on Monday.